Together we question.
Together we achieve.
Together we create.
Together we overcome.
And together we inspire. Welcome to the Empower You podcast.
This episode is brought to you by IBM Canada Advanced Studies.
No, really. Actually, Bachan, would you care to start first? I'm curious how you got contacted by, I believe it was Dana first. And how did you get part of Inspire?
Well, I was going through the department handbook and I saw that you could take a directed studies. And I saw that you could also take a co-op. And then, given my background in working with different organizations, I wanted to work while I was studying, right? And I didn't want any other work. I wanted a software work. And then I was talking to Dana about opportunities and opportunities to build a network, essentially. And then that's when she mentioned Inspire and how I would not need a co-op and how Inspire would be sufficient. But it started when I worked with the Saanich Leadership Council last term on their marine life preservation program. And that was originally supposed to be one of the Inspire projects, but for some reason that didn't go well. Or I don't know how that technically didn't become a part of Inspire, but I was supposed to be working with them with Inspire. And then I was supposed to be the ambassador for future students to continue on the work that I had already done. But since the project was not there and I was already sort of involved with Inspire, Dana said, well, there's another project and I'm interested in that. And I just said, okay, yeah.
Fair enough.
I'll do it.
Yeah, what was that project about? Do you mind if I ask?
The last project?
Yeah.
I'm just going to get you to move your mic just a little bit closer. It cuts.
Cool.
Yeah, you have to they're unidirectional, so you have to speak right into
better.
it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
How about now?
Sorry. Yes.
No worries. Yeah.
Yes, I know it's a bit odd. You're like, oh, it can pick up here. But yeah, it doesn't.
So right here.
Yeah.
No problem at all. All right. So last project was about tracking vessels and any marine activities in the coastal areas that are native and important to the Saanich people, First Nation people. So there are so many vessels and ships that are not in compliance with the regulations of Transport Canada.
Wow.
So there are certain speed limits and certain zones you cannot enter. But that was not the case. At least that's what my data found, right? And then that was to be alerted immediately to concerned people. So as soon as, for example, a vessel passes through a shipping lane in more than 14 knots of speed, the concerned people would get an email right away. And then we would also generate a weekly report every week and send that report to Transport Canada.
Oh, wow.
So I had to get a license approved from Transport Canada to be able to do that because all the data I see there was confidential.
Dude, that's amazing.
So yeah, well,
super cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Right. That was interesting, right? And then that's how I started working with Dana in these different projects. And then I got to know about Inspire and all.
Right.
So that's how I'm here.
Maybe a future Inspire project.
Probably.
I know they had a lot of applications, though, from community partners, and it was really difficult for Dana to actually decide which ones we do right now. Because there was so many. I remember the ambassadors meeting, like the first time. You were on Zoom, so you might not have heard it as well.
I missed a few things, but
we were in a restaurant environment, right? Probably couldn't hear as well, but she was talking about a whole different bunch of projects, and a lot of them didn't get picked up because we just didn't have the space or the amount of students to do it. But maybe next time.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Right?
I hope so, yeah.
That's so cool. How'd you get into that? Don't mind me asking.
Into the... Sorry, Parker, you were saying?
No, go ahead.
Into the project that I just talked about?
What interests you in it?
So I talked to Dana about doing a co-op right away, as soon as I joined. And she said, I have an opportunity for you. It involves working with Marine Department of the Saanich Leadership Council. And then it involves data science because you get to play around with data. And, that's why I applied to a master's program in computer science, right? Because I love data. And I said yes right away. So, yeah, that's how I got into that project.
So cool.
And it sounds like a really complicated system that you built. Like, I know it's like in theory, you summed it up in probably less than 2 minutes, but that sounds like, how do you even begin to track that kind of activity?
I need to clarify something. So it's not a system that I completely built out of scratch in a term. That wouldn't be possible, right? So there's a system called Enhanced Maritime Situational Awareness. I believe Fujitsu built that for Transport Canada. And they have an existing system, but just there's not proper ways of bringing data in and out of the system for analytics. So more than the tracking and the system itself, it's more about bringing information from the data. Like every vessel generates crazy amount of raw data, right? Every second as we speak. But to have that in a proper structured way that it actually makes sense, and it's actually easier for policymakers and these offices to make sense of the data. That was a bigger challenge, I'd say, rather than the system itself. So for me, my job was to ensure there are different ways to get data in and out of the system for analytics. And hence the directed studies was called Data Analytics in Preserving Marine Life.
That is very concise for a title. That makes sense. I mean, were you having any big challenges with that project? Like any large roadblocks or setbacks that you had to get past? And
yeah, I'd say a couple of setbacks. The Department of Fishery, their data and their website, sorry to say, is like horror show. And most of the people agree with that. So it's really difficult to go to their website and come up with actual facts, because we don't want to be tracking ships or vessels that are actually in compliance of the regulations, right?
Right.
For us, it was difficult to know what are the regulations out there. And especially for me, with no experience in marine whatsoever, coming from a landlocked country to begin with, right?
No kidding.
So that was a challenge for me to stay on top of regulations and actually implement that.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to do like a whole crash course in just like marine traffic law out of nowhere. That sounds pretty intense.
So cool and so unique. And that's really what Inspire is about, is taking someone who doesn't have a lot of experience in something, throwing them into a project where you totally have to think outside the box.
Absolutely.
So coming from a landlocked country to now a marine environment, I love that.
Right.
Developing software for
and
the environment.
Even though it was not officially part of this year's Inspire project, the intentions behind that was Inspire. That I can say. So yeah, absolutely. Some credit to Inspire.
Yeah, and if you could go back and give yourself some advice at the beginning of that project, like what did you learn now that you're on the other side of it? What kind of advice would you give to other students coming into Inspire projects?
I guess most people say no to opportunities because they fear the unknown so much.
Yeah.
People say no to opportunities lots of time because they second guess themselves, and it's all right. I mean, like, you don't have any experience, right? It's valid that you second guess yourself. But putting a roadblock in front of you just because you don't know something, I think that will like take away really beautiful opportunities from your life.
It's so true.
So
I was having a conversation with a close friend the other day just about fear of the unknown and in general, and it's where a lot of opportunity lies. I know that like it's natural for people to be afraid of things and think that there's dangers and failures at risk and everything, but it's far less likely than I think people think. You know, if it's more of a calculated risk rather than being reckless, it's how you find opportunities and actually work your way towards success.
Absolutely. And in projects like this, there aren't a lot of risks, to be honest, because you're a student at the end of the day and people don't expect miracles out of your hands, right?
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, you end up with a little bit of knowledge, a little bit more than what you had originally started with, and then you pass that on to somebody else and they can pick that up and then build on top of that. So like even the worst case scenario is not that bad.
No.
Yeah,
so
nothing to lose and all to gain, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said this time after time on this podcast as well, like, you have to get uncomfortable to be comfortable, right? Push yourself. You have amazing people behind you to support you. If you're in that industry and you want to be there, you'll succeed.
It's all about growth, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I kind of want to ask the same question to Payton now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so like, what made you want to get involved with Inspire?
I was actually approached by Jenna at an event through UVic, through Science Venture, which is it's an organization that helps like high school students get involved with more STEM activities and sort of expose them to what actually happens at STEM. And it was a Go Code Girl Day. It was in the engineering computer science building, and all the engineering clubs were invited to come and like bring something to kind of show. And then they had sort of an open house where all the girls could walk around and like talk to like engineering students about their projects. And with the race car team, we actually brought the race car inside.
That's so cool.
And it was like by far the coolest thing there. Not biased at all, but so many kids like came up and were like asking a bunch of questions, and they seemed really excited. And then they gave us a chance to like talk about what we did and like why we were there. And I just like said a few words about, you know, how I didn't really know what the heck engineering even was to begin with. And then I started out at UVic and I realized like this is the coolest thing. You get to build stuff, you get to test stuff, you get to break stuff, and you get to like work on a race car that like students build. I'm like, this is like so cool. And then Dana came up to me afterwards. She's like, have you heard about this Inspire thing? I was like, I have not. No. She's like, oh, we I'm in the computer science faculty, and I'm starting it up in the spring and fall and summer. Sorry, if you'd be interested. Like, we have no mechanical engineers as of right now, and like having that sort of diversity in expertise is really helpful. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. Like, that's
sign me up.
Yeah, right. Yes, I'm there. And then that's kind of how I came to learn about Inspire. Was Dana gave a good pitch to me there. So
that's
got
awesome.
me really stoked on it. And
also, I think like it was like pretty evidential that having you would help not only us but other Inspire teams as well, because I know you've been helping out other teams given your expertise in mechanical engineering.
Yeah, right? And like having somebody that knows that side of things. I know not all projects need mechanical. Actually, my project doesn't even need any mechanical engineering, but some of them do, and it's just good to have a diverse knowledge base. I guess like every team needs somebody that knows something in different areas. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Really cool to be a part of that.
And for our listeners that don't know which race car you work on, can you please tell us?
So it is Formula Student Race Car. So it's like a collegiate design competition, and a bunch of universities around the world build these, and they form teams, solely students, undergrads, graduates, and it's kind of a mix between a go-kart and an F1 car. So it's more powerful and bigger than a go-kart, but student size still. Like, we can have somebody on all four wheels and like lift it up ourselves. Like, it's 450-ish pounds on a good day.
I know you probably get asked this all the time, but like, how fast do they go?
Oh, that's the top question. That and can I drive it?
Yeah, exactly. That was gonna be my follow-up.
Our estimate, we just changed the gear ratio actually. So it's about 120 kilometers an hour, so not super fast. But the tracks that they have at competition,
that's fast,
are like really tight and windy and like technical driving. Like, you need to have really good acceleration and really good handling. So that's kind of what we designed the car for. And yeah, it just turns in like nothing. Like, it's so not my Volvo station wagon. It's the farthest thing from that. it's
so
wild.
It's so cool. And honestly, it's so inspiring to hear a woman leading a race car team.
Yeah.
Right? So
absolutely.
Yeah. I remember when I first joined, there was a really badass woman. I don't know if I could say that, but she's super cool. She was running the electrical team. Like, she just came back from a co-op at Tesla. She was super smart, super welcoming, and like leading a group of students in like the whole electrical system on the car. And I was like, I'm gonna be like that one day. And I didn't go through the electrical system, but I ended up becoming the project manager and like overseeing all the systems. So that was really cool. She definitely like inspired me at that point. Like, she
was a hidden mentor. She doesn't know, but if she's listening to this, she now knows.
Yeah, so she'll know who she is. Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Well, and how did that transition to you choosing the JVEC project?
I would say just like inspiring, but also like supporting. The Women Plus Fleeing Violence part of the JVEC project sort of stood out to me because, I mean, I don't have lived experience. I have no idea what that would be like. I could only imagine being in a situation with domestic violence or intimate partner violence. But being able to support Women Plus with my STEM knowledge, whatever STEM knowledge is I've gained over the years, I wanted to do that and like apply it to that sort of population and like have that group of people get specific benefits from our project.
Totally. I've got a lot of respect for that. In fact, maybe this would be a good point to explain what the JVEC project is.
Yes, I was going to ask.
Yeah. So it started out with the title Women Plus Fleeing Violence Navigator Application. So that's what we were given. And actually a group of geography students from UVic did some prior research for part of their project course. And essentially it's an application, so web app, mobile, to help provide services and support for Women Plus Fleeing Violence. So the team itself has gone through a lot of iteration and research to figure out what that looks like. Because like just from the title, it's descriptive enough, but it's quite broad still. And like this is a very complex problem. But the team has iterated through prototypes and even just users, like finding who is our key user here. So obviously the Women Plus are who we're focusing on supporting, but are they like helping them might not make the biggest impact. So actually in the research, we found that helping the support workers could have a bigger impact right now. And then that could be scaled to directly help the Women Plus feeling violence.
Right. That's a really concise way to put it, for sure. Yeah. For, people listening, I'm also a part of that team, the JVEC team. And we did countless hours of interviews and analyzing transcripts and figuring out where's the right place to step in to build a solution and an intervention. And that alone was one of the most challenging processes, for sure. What was that like for you, Bachan, that whole period?
Well, to be honest, it was a little overwhelming to begin with. And it's such a complex problem. And honestly, towards the first few weeks of the project, I believe that coming up with a technology solution is not going to solve this problem. Because the width and the depth of this problem is systematic.
Yeah.
It's governmental. It's political, if you will.
Cultural, psychological, sociological.
Yeah.
How are we going to come up with a technology solution that solves this problem? That was a big challenge for me throughout the project, right?
Yeah.
But towards the end, I sort of realized that we're not completely trying to solve the problem. We're just trying to make the lives of people who are working to solve this problem. We're trying to make the lives of those people better. We're not going to allow them to be miserable while solving this problem. We're going to help them. We're going to reduce their redundant and manual and tedious tasks. Right? We're going to build something that all the shelters can use so that they have a centralized resource management system.
Incredible.
And that's gonna help their lives, and ultimately helping the lives of these people who are fleeing domestic violence.
Absolutely, because like one of the hugest things that was a takeaway for us in interviews was the turnover rate of staff in the system is like one of the biggest things clogging up the system. Right? They experience so much burnout, and when we went to shelters in person and when we got to like know their workflows and interview these people, we realized that they're largely overlooked by the tech industry. They still operate pen and paper and Excel sheets and emails and binders of wait lists, and it's due for an upgrade.
Especially since the problem is just getting bigger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right? I know this hits home with homelessness, especially within the region. You mentioned the GVEC project, but for our listeners, can you explain what GVEC stands for?
Oh, right, yeah. The Greater Victoria Coalition to End Homelessness. Yeah. And our community partner is Dr. Michelle Vanchu Orozco. She's been an incredible mentor and networker for us in this team and has handed off and coordinated an incredible amount of research and data and helped us with our direction and setting up interviews with people. Absolutely valuable resource.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to add to that, Michelle's network is incredible, and like her experience in this industry, it was something that is so key, because although she was not doing the interviews that we were doing, she just has an innate understanding for the depth of this problem and like thinks of things that we coming into this with new eyes would have no idea that we'd have to consider, which is great. And her also being the director of research and data analysis, she definitely had some tips about analyzing all the interviews that we did. And yeah, it was a fantastic help to have her expertise there.
The fact that she had such a wide network and connections with different shelters, that's what actually enabled us to go and talk to these shelters. Like, how else would we know where do we go and who do we talk to?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we almost had like too many interviews to do at one point. It was like, oh, we gotta analyze these.
Yeah, absolutely. And I personally owe her quite a bit, to be honest, because as I'm sure a lot of listeners are aware, the Inspire the Inspire program is focused towards ethnic minority groups and helping give them a leg up in STEM. And I don't actually fit into any regular minorities. I'm a white guy, but I care very deeply about societal problems. And a while back, I approached Michelle before becoming a student to just seek mentorship regarding my academic path and what I want to do. She's the lead data analyst at the Greater Victoria Coalition to End Homelessness. It's a long name.
It is. Javek is
yeah,
way easier.
Henceforth known as Javek.
Yeah.
And she was absolutely incredible with putting me in touch with Dana and getting me into the project in the first place, of which it wouldn't have happened for me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she's been a huge part of this since the very beginning, especially for me.
That's wonderful. See, I didn't know that. So that's really heartfelt, right? Mm-hmm. I love how I have the whole team here because now I'm going to learn secret things that I didn't know about all of you.
Yeah.
Now there's a complex backstory to everything, hey? It's wild.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. I think one of the largest challenges that we're facing, just in discussions with our community partner, Michelle, is that while we have built something that we verified is effective for, we call them mixed use shelters. So standard homeless shelters. Our journey of trying to get to the root of helping women plus fleeing violence find resources has led us to sort of working on a waitlist management system for these shelters, which is something very, very needed and we're excited about. But there's been a bit of a drift when it comes to helping who we set out to help. So we're still coming up with final prototypes for that. And she's still very happy with what we've accomplished, as it's, of course, given the name of the organization that she's with is still something that matters a lot to her. But we don't plan to end development here. And it's challenging right now because we are wrapping up the project, and everyone has their own paths and journeys that they're heading on and everything. But we're still coming up with new designs and things like that, and even talking about forming a nonprofit to carry on the continued development of not just this project, but future ones as well.
And I know there's talk about future development of a lot of the Inspire project as well, which is incredible because at the beginning in May, could you have even imagined this?
Oh my God, no.
I mean, no. I thought that it was kind of up till the end of July is sort of what it was looking like. And then we got more funding, and then there's just so much interest in continuing on. So yeah, I can't believe how much it's blossomed since.
And this is really incredible to watch too.
Yeah. And for me, to recap, I asked Michelle, what courses do you think I should take? 5 months later, we're talking about running a nonprofit. I never ever saw that coming, ever. Didn't even know.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah, it just escalated very quickly.
And Bachan, I want to actually ask you, because you were pretty much the main or lead developer on this, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I want to ask you, what was that experience like?
It's a little different than what I was used to. So back home, in my company, I was used to finding partners and clients, say, for profit, right? What's the quickest way to develop this, and what's the quickest way to roll this out so that I can make money for my company?
Mm-hmm.
So that primarily in most software companies, that was my mindset, let's say. But it was kind of different in here, and I've never worked with people outside my own, let's say, first language speaking individuals. I've worked with Nepalese developers all my life, but to be working with team from different countries, I mean, the four of us, Parker, we're from 4 different countries, right?
Yep.
That's a really interesting experience for me. So to have development work done in that kind of background, that was really interesting and fascinating. So in that terms, the project being non-profit itself, and then me not having the prospect of making any money out of this, that certainly changes the way we look at building reliable and secure and scalable code, because I just don't want to deploy it right away. I want to build it in such a way that future teams might actually be able to benefit from this and can continue building on top of this. So I want to take care of that part more than ever. Mm-hmm. So the non-profit element of doing a project helped me build a better system, let's say. So I was thinking, if we took out the profit portion of most of the software projects in the world, the quality of the software that we deliver would be crazy. Yeah. It would be good.
Yeah, that's incredible to hear.
That was my thought throughout the development process.
And that's like that triangle, right? You have to pick 2 out of the 3 things. You can have good, fast, or cheap. I think those are the 3. You can have 2 of those.
Yeah.
Can't have all 3, so.
Yeah.
And it would not have been possible without generous donors and sponsors for the Inspire program. So thank you to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Payton, I want to ask what it's been like being the ambassador for GIAVEC, and what has it been like working with Parker and Bachan and the rest of your team?
It's been a really eye-opening experience. Like, I've never been an ambassador for, I guess, anything. The ambassador role is quite unique because you're not a team lead, you're not a project manager, you're not really a mentor, but you're a supporter and like a confidant, kind of like an advisor. Like so adjusting to that role was different and challenging. I definitely found my project manager instincts kind of going over at the start, and I was like, I have to just let them figure it out. Like they can figure this out. They've got it. But I think after the roles sort of settled and everyone sort of figured out where they were supposed to be, the team just continued to grow, and it was really cool to see the different backgrounds too, because they're not all software developers or like you're in computer science, and then us having a senior like software developer like Bachan be there to support you and guide you. Like, that was really amazing to see him teach you things and teach others things. Like Mobina's biomedical, Ahmed's a fellow mechie. Like, so relative like computer science and software experience, like not all that much, but it was really cool to see when we got to the software development stage, like Bachan was delegating and helping them take up different sides of things and like different parts of the project, and like all combined skills to produce something. And that was really, really, really cool to see and be a part of. It was weird not being able to like be a technical expert and like mentor in that way. But I hope I was useful in some ways for mentorship or whatnot.
Especially with connections with facilitators and managing our deadlines and documents. Like, that was very, very helpful, especially for me. Like, I'm still getting better with deadlines. So yeah, that was great.
That one's always a struggle. It's tough when so much is going on too. Like, this kind of project has constantly fluctuating deadlines and like constantly fluctuating priorities, and there's always way too many things on the table to do them all at once. Like, prioritizing is definitely something that you guys have really improved on, like over the course. Like, I see you guys taking on more and more things, but actually being able to do more and more things also, like, as the project progresses. So that's really cool.
I'd say one notable thing about Payton's role is, for our first presentation on the June 20th networking event, on the Fridays we had like rehearsals for our presentations, right? And we were not prepared for the rehearsals or presentations, and we screwed up. Oh yeah, we failed hard. That was Friday, right?
And it's on Monday.
And the actual event is on Monday.
Yeah.
And we have just a weekend to work over a proper presentation that we should have been doing like 2 weeks ago. And then the next day, Saturday, the 4 of us sit down and Payton joins us. And then we actually built a presentation, and that was really good. And then I realized having somebody like Payton in her role, somebody from, well, not quite outside, but outside the core team, pushing you to do things in that manner, that actually creates quality work.
It does.
So having her in that day, I think that's what pushed us to create a better a relatively way better presentation on the Monday. The Monday event.
It was an amazing turnaround. Like, we got such good feedback on like the final presentation for that.
Absolutely.
We for the dress rehearsal we flopped hard. And so like massive difference.
Right, and that's like one of the important, significant, let's say, examples of how Payton's role has had influence in our team, even though she said like she's not been the core part of the team for software development or whatever. Like, having somebody in that role outside of the core team and pushing you really helps. So that's one notable example for me.
Is this like the invisible mentor thing for you with the electrical engineer? Did you know that you influenced them that much?
I didn't realize. I saw the results. So I saw how hard they worked over that weekend. And like, I was very, very, I don't want to say surprised because I never doubted you guys, but I'm really proud of like what you guys got done in 2 days. Like, holy smokes. It was a good turnaround. I wasn't able to make it to the rehearsal, but just based on the feedback at the actual event, it was a great end product. So good job, y'all.
Absolutely. And everyone did so well at that networking event. Like, I was just watching and honestly starstruck because lots of the students are first year, second year, and they're public speaking better than lots of professionals that I have seen. So
definitely.
Yeah. Just gotta say, like, me in first year, like, I would have been terrified to do that and talk to that many people. Like, even I mean, I'm like fifth year, whatever we are now. But that was a lot of people to get up and speak to. That definitely would have been way, way, way out of my comfort zone if I was in, the position of a lot of those students. So
But all the first years now, just like in second year, their profs are going to be watching them presenting and be like, where did you learn to do that?
They're way ahead now. Exactly. It is awesome. Yeah.
Actually, Payton, would you mind introducing the other team members that aren't here as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
So there's 2 team members that aren't here right now. We've got Ahmed. He's a 4th year mechanical engineering, I believe.
4th year, I believe.
Yes. And then Mobina is a 3rd year biomedical engineering student here at UVic. So they're not with us today, but they're incredibly key players for this team. Mobina's gone home at the moment, so she's probably asleep right now. So that's actually been an interesting challenge coming up in the last little while, is working not only remote but different time zones. So that's, I mean, in the future, it's very probable that everyone's going to have to be working with people from different countries and in different time zones. So that's a good skill to have now and learn early when, stakes aren't as high. We're all students. We can learn, we can fail, and it's okay.
And absolutely. I know one of our mentors for the VBIS project is one of our IBM mentors. She's in China. So she'll be trying to schedule with us, and she's like, Saturday, and I'll remind my team, that's Friday for us. It's Friday. So we meet Friday nights, but like Saturday mornings for her. And right, we just accommodate whatever she can give us. We're just very thankful.
So if Dana and Ali wanted to meet the entire team, entire JVIC team, that would be a problem.
Oh man, yeah, because
Dana, India, Ali
is in Egypt now. Yeah.
Mobina is in Iran.
Yeah, lots of different time zones right now.
They're a lot closer than us, though. Time zones, right? Kind of concentrated.
Actually, yes.
Yeah. We have a couple community mentors as well, actually. There's Nazma and Madeline. I think Nazma is in Calgary,
yeah.
Yeah, so another time zone away.
And Madeline's thankfully local.
Yeah, she's
so
local.
That's good.
Yeah, we've had help from a lot of different areas for this project. Yeah.
The network of Inspire is, I gotta say, one of the things that stood out to me over this last 4 months. It is just crazy.
Well, one main thing I wanted to ask Payton was, like, if you could give advice to a new student in Inspire, or even university, or even yourself 4 months ago, like, what would you have to say?
Do those things that scare you. Like, just do them. Find a network of support so that you feel comfortable enough. Like, it's okay if you really do not feel comfortable, because you'll learn a lot from doing things that scare you. I really regret not doing that in my early years. Like, I kept to myself. I basically just did my school. And then the first co-op I ever did, I was like, wow, there's way more to university than just school. Like, look at, this is like a little glimpse into life. And then at that point, I started doing way more for like extracurriculars and like meeting different people and taking on like different projects other than just like, studying for school. And I think that really made a difference. So don't be afraid to just do things, and don't be afraid to just network, like talk to people. That's how Dana reached out to me. Like, that's how I met her, just talking. That's how you met Dana.
Bachan, that's Parker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably the main thing that I would say. I don't know if anybody has anything to add to that.
No, that's a really good point. I find that people, they're just people.
Yeah.
Like, they're far more approachable than you realize. It's so easy to put people you've never met before, like, on the pedestal, especially if they're like, a CEO in the industry or higher up in IBM, being a large part of this whole project. People are very approachable. They're busy, of course, but if you show interest and you're willing to learn, you stay humble, they're often willing to make the time for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'd say a little advantage in your undergrad or whatever in life, it goes a long way. Having a small advantage over your peers, let's say, that goes a long way. For example, I took a programming course before I joined my first year in 2015. And I was one of the most technically competent students in my first year courses, just because I took like a 3-month course on programming and they had not, right? And that kept on following. And in my final year, that particular advantage put me at a position where I could start my own company. And before students, my peers graduated, I could start my own company, right? And before they got actual job experience, I had like several years of experience working with people. And that's how I'm here essentially, right? So a small advantage with an opportunity like this, it can really go a long way. So for anybody who's like listening or maybe interested in joining opportunities like this in the future, don't underestimate the advantage you can be put at because of these opportunities. These are massive. Like life is competition, man. Like you gotta compete with people, and then confidence comes from competence, and we gotta preach competence. And opportunities like this will really make you competent. Like you were saying, first year students being able to walk up to the stage and present with confidence. And that actually comes from competence, because they've been competent in presenting, because they've presented so many times. Even in the classrooms doing playbacks to all the people in Inspire, right?
You struggle enough, you fail enough times, you get up, you get better, and you start getting competent.
Words to live by.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, it's like success, small advantages compounds future success.
Absolutely. It's like a ripple effect. You drop like tiny little stone in the water, and then it makes big ripple up onto the source, right? So
and actually, Bachan, we've had a number of talks over the last several months about like they've almost been like philosophical sometimes, and those have been some of my favorite moments with the team. Actually, especially I know Ali, one of our facilitators, really gets into those conversations with us too, and it's not just like having a small advantage. It's also being able to see things that are of merit and like what your advantages are and like what opportunities are. It's like the way that you think about success in general is its own advantage,
right?
And maybe we don't have to go too far into this topic if we're running out of time, but I just really agree with what you're saying, and I know it's come up a number of times over the last several months. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's true though. Absolutely, 100% of it.
Inspire is a good opportunity to do that. Like that's one of the opportunities that I took, and I'm so grateful that I did and that it came my way.
For instance, like Parker's father is software technology entrepreneur. He's like built and sold multiple technologies for you.
Yours has run multiple nonprofits and NGOs.
Anyways, so the fact that we're doing this project with Jivek and then we come up with this software, Parker's father agreed to helping us with giving feedback on our software, and he was kind of impressed with what we built. And the next thing I know, he wants to offer me a job just because I accepted working with Inspire, and me coming from a different country as an international student to have job offers in your hands before you graduate. That's big.
It's huge.
And that's advantageous just because I said yes to Inspire. And I said yes to the last term's Marine project, and I got an email last month for the job position, for the position that I work in. Like it's an actual job now, and the people from that office are looking to hire somebody to do something that I already did. So if I had applied, the chances,
they would have been like,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So come back.
Saying yes to opportunities like this really puts you at an awesome advantageous position. And if there's any international students out there listening to this program, say yes to opportunities. Say yes to opportunities like this.
And like you said, it creates that ripple effect. They just keep coming and coming. And honestly, they don't stop.
They don't stop.
Which is fantastic. And that's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
Right? Well, thank you both, Payton and Bachan, for joining us today. I know, Parker, you're also part of this team. So thank you for diving deep into that conversation as well. So thank you from behalf of myself and Parker.
Thank you, guys.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having us.
We'll catch you in the next episode.
Take care. I'm Parker DeBrune.
I'm your co-host, Jenna Melman.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. Until next time, stay inspired.